Hello, my name is Zoard Schibel. Some people call me Papa Zoard. I'm going to read a book called Petunia Onion in Accordion Mouse, the Musical, written by Mike J. Preble. And when I finish, I'm going to play a tune for you on the accordion. Dedicated to Sherman and Orsie Stewart Preble, on whose farm I spent many summers digging in the dirt, picking brown and white chicken eggs, listening to red-winged blackbirds in the marsh, and learning how to pump water from a well. "Grandma," said Petunia Onion, "tell me about the mouse and the accordion." "All right," said Grandma, "but first we have to get comfortable." For Petunia and her grandma, comfortable meant a big brown couch with big round arms that Petunia used for playing Climb the Mountain. The giant cushions were perfect for Don't Touch the Floor, Hot Lava. "You get the quilt and I'll tend the fire," said Grandma. Grandma had a black metal wood stove in the corner of the room. Inside, it was all yellow and red and orange when the fire was burning. Grandma turned the logs with a long metal stick. Sparks flew and flames danced. "Now let's get you covered up, and I'll warm my feet," said Grandma. "Grandma," said Petunia, "you forgot your tea." "I have it right here," said Grandma. She poured the steaming tea from a flowery pot into a flowery cup. "We'll let that cool a bit," said Grandma. Petunia lay in Grandma's soft lap. She watched orange flames dance on blackened logs. "One day there was a little mouse who lived in that accordion right there in the corner until I shooed him away. The end," said Grandma. "That's not how it goes," said Petunia. "Tell it right." Grandma took a sip of tea. She tucked the quilt tight around Petunia's feet. She began in a sing-song voice. "One day a mouse who lived in a house found himself lost and alone. 'If only,' he said, 'I had stayed in my bed instead of gnawing upon their new phone.' With a lid and a shout, they took me right out and dumped me way out in the field. 3 dogs and a cat, a hawk and a rat all tried to make me their meal. But I ran very fast and made it at last to another house for a mouse like me." "Was that your house?" asked Petunia. "I suppose," said Grandma. "I never moved. And there's my accordion." "How do you know it was 3 dogs and a cat?" said Petunia. "The mouse told me." "Now be quiet, or I'll forget the next part," said Grandma. "The part where you chased the mouse with your broom and almost knocked over your sewing machine?" asked Petunia. "Don't remind me." Grandma sipped more tea. This time she spoke in a quiet, whispery voice. "That mouse, he looked up, and then he looked down. He looked all around, and found a peekaboo crack under the door. He sniffed and said, 'Mm, which means lots of food and no cats. The cellar was dark for you and me, but not for a mouse who knows how to scurry and scoot and climb and hide behind. He found a basket of apples, a big bag of onions, a sack of potatoes, a bushel of corn, bundles of dried flowers, and dusty jars of pickles and beets. Then the mouse heard a howling and a growling." "Was that Bowie?" asked Petunia. "Yes," said Grandma. "Bowie always sang when I played my accordion." "What did you play?" asked Petunia. "I played his favorite," said Grandma. Good night, sun. Good morning, moon. Twinkle stars. My dish is empty. Grrr. And bark and howl. Are those real songs? Asked Petunia. Of course they're real. Bowie and I sang them every night, said Grandma. Where's Bowie now? Asked Petunia. Bowie got old, like all dogs do, said Grandma. He died when you were a very little girl. You were his best friend. Why don't you get another dog and name him Bowie too? Asked Petunia. That wouldn't be right, said Grandma. She took another sip of tea. This time she talked in a tiny, squeaky voice. The mouse climbed the wooden stairs all the way to the top, where the cellar door meets the kitchen. He peeked underneath and saw 2 chairs, a table, a wash basin, and a big wood stove with a steaming kettle for tea. Slowly he crept out and went right behind the icebox. What's an icebox? Asked Petunia. It's like a refrigerator, only it has ice in it to keep it cold, said Grandma. We have ice in the freezer, said Petunia. That little mouse waited and listened and waited. Finally he peeked around the corner. He could see a big old dog in the middle of a rug by the fire. Where were you? Asked Petunia. Right here warming my toes, said Grandma. Didn't you see him? Asked Petunia. Perhaps, said Grandma, but my eyes might have been resting just then. How do you know what happened? Asked Petunia. The mouse told me, said Grandma. Now, don't close your eyes or you'll fall asleep and you'll never know the end of the story. Petunia tried to keep her eyes open for a long, long while. She opened them wide, wide, wide as they would go. She blinked very fast and then very slow and then many times in a row. She tried counting her blinks, but she always got mixed up somewhere around 14 or 17. She closed one eye to rest while she kept one open to see. Then she switched sides. She even held her eyebrows up with her fingers. The flames in the fireplace were getting smaller and smaller. Every once in a while she'd hear a crackling and a popping sound. The waning moon started to climb over the chicken coop and shone in through the window. The chirping of crickets floated in with the cool breeze. Frogs croaked down by the marsh. An owl kept telling everyone to wake up. Petunia listened to the story about a mouse chased from his house, who found a new home in an old accordion right there in the corner. Petunia looked at the accordion and saw 2 tiny eyes peeking back at her. She wondered why Bowie didn't jump up and chase it. Then she remembered. Bowie was asleep in the middle of the rug. She could hear him snoring. Every once in a while he'd yelp and twitch, like he was chasing something. Petunia lay back down and listened to the story about a mouse and a house and an accordion. The end.